Good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you may be, or good evening, or good night. This is Jen at Jen's Arty Inclinations, a place to create, share and play.
Hello. Alrighty, so this is the second part of my doodle videos, only because I had such a lovely session that I had to split them over two. So here I'm just preparing my paper. This is simply water that I just put some ink into and coloured it blue, so that's why it's so light. And I'm just mucking about, splishing and sploshing, and I love this stuff. I really do love creating backgrounds and mucking about with paint and ink and all sorts of different mixed media and multimedia. It's a really fun part of the process, getting all this wonderful messy goodness together. So these are some old book pages and they soak up these kind of materials beautifully into the actual pages, which is lovely. And I've also got some old music pages, as you can see there. Now, what do I do next? I use a soft pastel. So this is one of those chalky pastels or soft pastels, and it's blue as well as the water that I was using. So I've just used that to kind of scuff and smudge. It smudges like charcoal. It's wonderful stuff. I do love charcoals and soft pastels. Really, really fun to play about with. Now the music pages, they are the ones that I doodle on in the first video, so I'll make sure I have a link for that in the description. And here I'm doing the first lot. Now these are actually Zentangled inspired shapes that I'm using here. They all have names and I'm afraid I don't know what the names are, but they're just a few different shapes that I've learnt recently, and so I'm enjoying playing with them, you know, altering them a little bit to make them a bit more my own, a bit more natural for my hand. Now, when you're doing a Zentangle, you're supposed to move your page around a lot so that you're in the most comfortable drawing position for every stroke. So you move it as much as is needed. I've kind of gotten used to not having to do that as much, having, you know, doodled and sketched and mucked about for years, but we'll see, you know, how it turns out. Now here I'm just adding a little bit of contrast by adding a little more black to this part of the picture and some outlines. All right, sorry about the background noise that keeps coming in from J-Bear. He's having a lovely time out there. I think he's got his headphones on and he's singing out loud in his own way. Sounds as good as me. Anyway, yes, so adding more shapes, a couple of simple leaf shapes, and this one I'm doing down here, it's a fairly common Zentangle shape. It's those 3 strokes, so the little 3 lines. So I just filled up this little bit here at the edge, and I don't know, it just all sort of came out of each other. These were referred to as odd kind of grasses with little dots on the end. I really liked them. I thought they were kind of cute. That circle just felt it was a little bit in line with the rest of it. And this is another little one of my versions of one of the odd little pod things that they do in Zentangles. So yeah, I guess, as I said, it's basically inspired by some other shapes that I've seen, and yeah, really, really enjoying it. This one is almost identical to the shape that I saw being used in Zentangles, and I really love that. I'm finding that a really useful shape to use out of all different things. So just adding some squiggles and swirls, because I love that, and I always love adding a leaf or two here and there. Then what I decided to do was to go back in and add some shading with the blue pastel, and that just picked it up. Now at the end you'll see what I actually made this into in just one of my simple junk journals that I've put together. It was one that I took away with me when my eldest son and I went away, just at the end of last week, sort of for an extended long weekend up to my dad's place, which was just wonderful. We got to listen to his music. He has some wonderful orchestral and jazz pieces, and so my eldest son has discovered a lot more of that. But, you know, good versions and good systems, which was great fun. Now, this was my different take on neurographics. So I still did the tracing around of the actual coin. That is one of the methods that I think is so much fun. It gives you really lovely organic lines when you're chasing that around the page. But using the pastel, instead of rounding the edges, I felt then just making all of the lines soft, it just really felt like it gave it a bit of a different feel. And yeah, I really quite like this. And this would be fantastic. You could really blend it and have it as a background on any kind of a page. It would look lovely if you put a single note page in the middle of that just as it is, and you'd have that as a border coming out of the back, a bit of a edge for a lovely space to journal in. And then I flicked some more of the blue tinted water over the top just to give it a bit of interest. So that's what I'm doing there. Now I believe I've let it dry off, obviously, so I've just come back to it, and now I just start to doodle away. There was no rhyme or reason. It's not a lot of rhyme or reason with any of my stuff. This has got lots and lots of swirly swirls in it. So I started out just by sort of feeling my way around the page a bit, just whatever came to me. Here I just did some contour lines. And yeah, I did work on filling up all the little separate spaces, and I think it came together in the end, but you know, you can see what you think. Contour lines are great because they give you the feel of a three-dimensional effect. You know, it looks like curves and folds and shapes and all that sort of thing. So yeah, I just think they're fun to do. They're an easy way to do any kind of a drawing really, and add a bit. So these lines, I decided they need to be little vines. So I added these cute little leaves to them. Nothing rocket science, but just such a lovely little effective way. So here I've obviously sped that up. No, I'm actually that quick and that clever at doing that. Not at all, not at all. Anyway, I actually do these kind of vines quite a lot. They're lots and lots of fun, and you know, it's something that often turns up, and I love doing little spiral swirls. Now, there's actually a Zentangled name, I think, for exactly just this, nothing more than spirals. So yeah, Zentangles are really clever because they can be very complex or they can be very simple. And so then once I did that, it inspired me to add some little spirals around my bigger spirals. And I really quite like that effect. I thought that turned out, you know, very cool. So that would be lovely on, you know, coming out of a little corner of a page in a journal and little things like that. So, you know, you think of other things while you're doing this doodling. Sometimes you just relax, but I find it does help the creative process as well. Now, all I'm doing here is little wonky lines, trying to make them as close together without touching, and it really offers quite a different effect than you would think of for straight lines. Now, I think this is called Puff or something like that, the basic version of this, and this is a wavy version of it. But I've just done the dots to kind of try and get roughly the same distance between the little lined circles that I'm doing. But once it all comes together, gee, it just looks so interesting and effective. So I'm still working in a bit of a grid, but it's just a wavy grid that kind of goes into that space. So you'll see what I mean. And then some of those, oops, I bumped the camera back there. Some of those pieces or some of the, what do you call them? I guess like the leaves, the leaf part of it or the petal part of it, the puffy bit. Some go behind other bits and others go in front. And it doesn't really matter, you know, how that ends up. It just looks interesting. So yeah, I think that's another one I'll probably use a little bit more of. And then I just did a kind of flowers. So started it off like I do a lot of my flowers, and then added a black centre, and they're just little circles around the edge. So that just gave it a little bit of something different. And I thought, oh, I'm not going to go to all this effort to fill up all of it. Oh, and then lined it with another shape. So I just did a few of these and then I outlined them. And again, I believe in Zentangle that's called aura, doing an aura around it or aura-ring it. So yeah, that's what that is. And I was like, oh, there you go. What we do a lot of, there's actually a proper name for it. But, you know, it's lots of fun. It's ways to find inspiration, nothing more. I do love doing these brick kind of walls. Gosh, haven't we all done them since kids? You know, how you used to do the brick wall and then you'd have that funny dude poking his nose over the wall. But anyway, just a simple little sort of petal leaf to fill up those shapes and putting little dots in the corners to give it some contrast. And in the end, I went, all right, well, I've kind of doodled enough now, and I just did some, I don't know if it's called auras when you do it on the inside, so whatever that name is. Anyway, doodling, so, because this is definitely more doodling. Zentangle is different. This is doodling where it's sort of free form and any shapes and filling up spaces and that sort of thing. So I quite liked these little spokey flowers. And then I used the pastels for those lagoon sort of shapes that I made, and that felt like it finished off the piece. I don't think this is as effective on camera, but when you see it close up in real life, it does actually look a bit better. So they were those two pieces. And then this is the first one that I did on the music pages, and I cut it up and made these couple of little journal cards that really, were quite cute, and I added a couple of other things for them. They made such a great background. This is the one that you saw me do at the beginning, and I made this into like a little flippy fold journaling spot with little tabs on it. I really loved that. It was on some brown paper that I had in packaging, so that was a true junk journal formation. And then last but not least, I did a teeny little mini notebook in it, which had a little tab on the front, and I used the front and back cover as the doodle that I'd done. It's a very simple construction, simply with pages stapled in and washi tape over the top. You can just see the staples under the washi there. So again, this is the hashtag 2022 Doodle Challenge, hosted by Leigh's Art Studio and Art and Junk Journals with Julie. I hope you'll join us, and I'd love to see in the comments if you're playing along too or what you like doodling. Thanks a lot, everyone. Take care. You can like and subscribe below, and as always, keep creating. See you next time. Bye.